Hi, and welcome to the Global Entrepreneurship Challenge 2025. In this video, we're going to give you an overview of the challenge and the roadmap that lies ahead of us. We're so excited to dive in, so let's get started. In today's world, we find ourselves in a global disconnection and loneliness crisis. We often find that things around us promise us connection, but often leave us feeling more disconnected in the end. That people aren't connected with their community in the same ways they used to be. And with so much noise and influence around us, it's easy to lose connection with our sense of self. That's why this year we are focusing our attention on SDG 3, good health and well-being, and you'll take on one of the most important innovation challenges out there. How can you help more people feel seen, supported, and connected in real life? To help us focus more closely on how we can make an impact, we are going to provide 3 suggested pathways to choose from. Our first suggested track is about flipping the script on what it means to be connected. When apps leave us feeling more alone than connected, how might we explore technology in ways that actually help people feel better and not just keep strolling longer? In this suggested track, we are asking teams to design and build something that makes real connection easier. In our second suggested path, we challenge you to look at how we can engage people in helping others, and as a result, feel better themselves. How might your team reimagine volunteering for your generation and design something that makes giving feel easier, more personal, and more fun? And for our third track, we are challenging teams to help others find themselves and connect with the things that bring them joy. In a world that is telling us who to be and how to act, how might we create space to discover ourselves? In this track, we're asking groups to design a tool, an experience, or community practice that helps young people build a sense of identity, belonging, and purpose. When figuring out which one of these suggested tracks you want to focus on yourself, remember that deciding on to make a decision based on what interests you most, not by what you want to know now. We have such a long process ahead of us, and it's important that we just start with our interest and allow the process to help us discover and gain knowledge. Through this challenge brief, we hope that all your solutions focus on solving these problems in your communities worldwide. However, if you have a focus that doesn't fit into one of these 3 areas, but goes and solves the overarching challenge, let us know, and would be happy to help you explore it. Now, to begin, let's look at how this process works. In the beginning weeks, we're going to take a deep dive into identifying stakeholders, problems, and understanding how we can truly create innovation and solve problems with products and services in our own communities. To do this, we are going to dive deep into the who, the what, and reframing. Along the way, we're going to ask you to give us updates on your progress. In a week before the second call, ask everyone on your team to submit something we call a quick pitch, which you will share with our global community of entrepreneurs. There will be more information on this in the weeks to come ahead. Our second call will be on January 13th, and after that, that's where we begin to narrow our focus on a particular solution and begin to figure out how we can develop and implement those solutions in our own communities, while at the same time begin to learn about the business process and how do we make this a business venture and grow it into something bigger than itself. Another way of looking at this is through the months that we have here. So October through January is going to be all about what are the problems in our own communities that we could solve. From January to February, we're going to start implementing those solutions. In May, there will be an optional 2-day sprint in Lisbon with business mentors to help elevate your ideas, and those dates are going to be coming soon. Lastly, in May, on the 22nd, that's when our GEC Summit will present their final solutions, and which will have a global audience and eyes on top of what you're doing. So to get an idea of what the end product looks like, what I wanted to do is show you an example of a final pitch provided by Hudson Lab Ventures in a partnership with Portugal's telecommunications company, NOS and WTF. NOS, who provides mobile, broadband, and TV services across all of Portugal, has a mobile app service called WTF. Unlike its meaning in the US, WTF is a youth-centered app that provides a means for mobile services for teens. Partnering with Hudson Lab Ventures, NOS and WTF were looking to find ways to engage and increase youth engagement with their company and services. To do this, they came up with 3 challenge tracks for their summer program to focus on, found here. Several teams took place in the process you're about to embark on, and at the end of the 2 weeks, pitched their products to executives at NOS about how they would solve the problem. One of those pitches can be found in the resources linked to this video. This group, WTF Matters, goes through the problem, their solution, and how they make it a business venture. At this point in the process, we're gonna ask you to pause the video and to watch their final pitch that you'll find in the resources. When you're finished, come back to this video so we can debrief and then show you what the next steps might be. Now that you've watched that final video, let's see what your first steps are going to be in your process. To begin, what we're going to do is ask you to choose one of these 3 tracks to focus on and identify who around us is a part of this problem through something called stakeholder mapping. This is going to be provided in the video that we're going to give you next. And what this is going to do is help us understand who we need to talk to in the second part. Next week, we're going to give you another video all about interviews and how do we discover and identify problems by going to the source. We're going to ask you to go out into your communities, interview different people, find research, and uncover the insights that really are at the source of the problem. More about this information is going to be released to you in the coming weeks, but a few things that you want to keep in mind as you go throughout this process now and into the future. First, don't rush the process. Dive deeper into it. We often find that students love to go through the process and go to solutions first. However, we know in the entrepreneurship world, the companies that take a deeper look into these often find the best insights. Stick with each one of our steps of the process. We'll be giving you these steps along the way, and dive deep into each of them. Try to get as much detail of them as possible. Number 2, resist the temptation to jump ahead. Like I said, students love to jump into solutions. We're all solution oriented. However, the solutions we often come up are because of the surface level problems. If you utilize this process the way that we deliver it to you, it's going to be much more likely you're going to uncover hidden problems that are often at the source of what's going on. So resist the temptation to jump ahead, but if you do have a good idea, write them down. There's no harm in writing it down, putting it to the side, and using it for later when it becomes more relevant. And then lastly, trust the process. This might be new to you. You are all problem solvers and entrepreneurs in your own senses. However, the entrepreneurship process and the one that creates really successful businesses often know that it's not about what's the solution, but what is actually the problem. That's why in the beginning part of this process, it's going to be focusing a lot about those. So trust that the process is going to work in the end, even if you've never been through it before. And I promise that you're going to get a deeper solution in the end because of it. So, one last thing we're going to ask you to do before moving on to the next video is we want to know more about your team. We're going to ask each individual person on your team, that is you, the students, fill out our registration form at the QR code right here to the side. It's a quick and easy form that just helps us collect some information about who's on your team and a little bit more about yourself and why you're participating here in the challenge. We're going to ask that you fill this out within the next week so we have an accurate inventory of who's here participating in this challenge. We can't wait to start this, and in the next video we're going to dive right into all of it, and we're excited to see how that goes. Thank you so much for watching.